Welcome to another edition of Talk Your Exposure, and today we have the program director of the OSBA Championship School, the Royal Crown School. Tune in to episode number 52 with Patrick Shaw as we talked about his legacy in the basketball world as well as other adventures outside of basketball. Stay tuned. Welcome to another edition of Talk Your Exposure, and today's a good one. But before we get to our guest, we have to give a quick memorial shout out to one of our former players, and the late great Keith Tennant. Somebody that was just walking around with a lot of smile on the face, hardworking kid, just got after it every single day in practice, and just somebody that always wanted to do better in life. Unfortunately, he was taken way too soon, way too soon. Still don't want to believe it till this day. Still don't want to embrace it. I don't really want to believe it, but unfortunately, it has happened. Keith, we wish you nothing. Well, sorry, Keith's family, you are in our prayers, and it's hard for me to just talk about. But with that being said, obviously, he is near and dear to all of us, and we wish nothing but prayer to the Tennant family. With that being said, Chris, obviously this is a bit more emotional than it is positive. I know Keith has played in some stuff that you've done as well. Anything you want to say about Keith Tennant before we start the show?
The smiles, man. The smiles, not the smiles. Like, just a easygoing kid. Just and it's sad to know that he's gone like that, and so unexpected. Like I got the call from me and Jeremiah were talking on the phone, and he brought it to my attention, and because he used to play for him as well, right? And I was like, "Yo, are you kidding me?" He goes, "Yeah, like, remember him?" Like, well, of course I remember him. Like, he's such a good guy. Like, you're not expect like it's sometimes you hear stories, you're like, that doesn't even make any sense. Like, like
Mm-hmm.
it didn't like it doesn't like you think what could have happened for that like he's such a good guy. So, once again, my condolences to the family and close friends, everybody, the basketball community, like everyone. This is one of those we have a lot of that going on, but this is another one where it's just you didn't expect that one, so a little too it's too soon.
Just
So
gotta put, just
I
gotta put
really
the guns
appreciate
down, man. Gotta put the guns down. We gotta
yeah,
stop killing. Gotta stop. Looking for the first solution is to shoot or stab or something like that. So, way too many things going on these days. But one thing I know about Keith is that Keith would always want things to move forward, and Keith would always want things to move on. So, we're gonna do that in honor of him today, and make sure that this show is gonna be in honor of Keith Tennant. So, with that being said, we'd like to introduce another person that Keith actually had the honor of playing for when he was part of Brothers Keepers. Somebody that is a pioneer in the basketball community. He does more than just basketball, though. He does a lot of community outreach stuff and a lot of working with people in general. Great man, great person to have on the show. Patrick Shaw, welcome to the show, man.
yeah.
Thank you guys for having me, Chris, Steve. Um, in terms of Keithy, um, in my former role at the City of Toronto, I was at Falstaff for 27 years. I seen a lot of kids go through it, and he was one of my favorite. He was a good kid. We strategized a lot because he did have his, you know, troubles in terms of, trying to navigate the basketball world and still be a student athlete and still follow rules and regulations. But he was always accommodating. Like he always, would sit down, talk to you, and say, "All right, coach, I got you, I got you, I got you." And echoing the smiles. He was always the guy who, you walked in the gym, he was having fun. He never really gave any problems to us. Like I never really had problems. It was more outside stuff that we were trying to help him to navigate to make sure that he could do basketball because that's what he wanted to do. So I got the call from one of the coaches, Reggie's mom, called and said she got the call. And, I didn't even know how to put it out there. Like, I knew about it, as soon as it happened. I was like, I don't even know if I want to put this out there. I'm hoping it's a lie, so it was kind of hard to really, fathom it. And then, everybody started calling me and said, I said, I knew from early this morning, but I didn't even want to be the one that put it in the chat or put it in any, like, I just didn't want to do
Yeah,
it. So when
yeah.
I saw it, I was like, damn, I was more thinking about it, his life, and how short, it is. And, this is the second young man that, I was close to that, died in probably similar circumstances, just going out of town and something happening, and probably dying alone. And that's the only thing I was thinking, like dying without people around him that actually cared and loved him, So it's a tough time, but we're gonna have to move forward, in terms of educating these young men and young women in terms of, sometimes your surroundings are not always good for you, and what, stick to the path you know, and you need more people like ourselves being around some of these kids to teach them how to navigate the rough patches because he had just got hurt.
Yep.
He hurt his leg and, I know he was out of basketball for a little bit. So sometimes that's the time when we need to, as educators and as basketball people and community people, be even more supportive because sometimes that's all they got. This is their therapy and their therapeutic aspects. And we need to make sure that we're there for them in the rough times, not just the good times.
100% right about that. And he actually played for Durham College. One of my friends is on the staff over there. And he was checking in on him quite often, literally just helping him with his homework. He called me at 2 o'clock in the morning, telling me what was going on, and I didn't even I was sleeping obviously, but when I called him yesterday morning, when I did wake up and him and I were able to talk, I just couldn't believe it. Obviously somebody that like you mentioned, mentoring and trying to help and trying to guide. Anything that he needed from me, I was always trying to help him. There'd be times where I would just kind of take him, let him sleep over at my house and just kind of, show him, like, honestly, you can get out of here. You can get out where you're at right now and come into a better area and, try to give a different type of lifestyle that he can appreciate so he can, don't have to get the scenario that he's in right now. So, just really sad times. Like I said, really sad times. And like you mentioned, just a good kid overall. That just understands life and the smile and his joy and his hard work and everything. That I always remember the time, one thing about him, he was always such a hard worker that like there's times that when he try to get out of sprints and whatever, he'd be like, Coach, I don't want to run these sprints. I don't want to run these sprints. But then he'd run the sprints and he'd become first. And it's like, so you don't want to run the sprints, but yet you're still coming first and making the time every single time. And showing that type of leadership, that kind of charisma, that type of, just honor that I had in my gym. That to me was like some of that I can't ever really I'll always be connected with him, and I'll always be connected for the sake of us, coach to player, friend to friend. Just heartbreaking. I can't even, like I said, I don't know how to put it into words. And like you said as well, Pat, it's when I got the news, I didn't want to put it on. I didn't want to put it on. I didn't want to say anything about it. Then I saw people posting it. I was like, well, I'm going to honor him. You know what I mean? And celebrate his, what he was able to do. But again, it's just very tough. So I don't know what more to say. I'm not necessarily laughing at it being funny. I don't know what more to say. And I just hope that we all kind of are able to celebrate him instead of just, talking about the bad or talking about what happened to him. You know what I mean? Just to celebrate more so his life and what he was able to do for all of us. He had an impact on me. As you mentioned, Patty had an impact on you. Chris, he had an impact on you as well. So as long as us as the basketball community can celebrate instead of looking at the fact that he's gone, that I think that would be the best way to cherish his life and remember his life. So yeah, so like I said earlier, he's going to want us to move on with that as well and not necessarily dwell on it. So with that being said, we're going to move on. Pat, I got a quick question for you, man. We got some game right now to start up the show, man. We always got a game to start up the show. This game is called "What Would You Do in These Scenarios?" This is given to you by Chris Campbell. He actually the one that wrote these out. So if you don't like these questions, they're on him.
Wow. Hey, talking about putting someone on blast.
He basically said if they ain't good, it's all on you.
like, babe, not even a warm up, just blast. All right, continue.
I'm just joking.
They're gonna be good anyways because I did it. So
I'm just joking. We worked with them together. But Pat, if you were in a jungle and you ran into the three following animals, a cheetah, a hyena, or a coyote, which one would you prefer to fight and why?
A cheetah.
A cheetah?
Yeah.
Okay, why a cheetah?
No, you know what? My bad. A hyena.
Oh.
A hyena. So a hyena, coyote. Damn, that's a tough one. God damn. Cheetah, hyena, coyote. I'm gonna fight the dog.
You're gonna fight the dog?
Yeah, I grew up with dogs, pit bulls, and Rottweilers, so I know how to defend myself against them. If it's a male, we know how to kick. you kick them. I don't know about the cheetahs and the hyenas. Their canine teeth are real sharp, but the wolf, we can mess with them.
Fair enough. If you were asked to choose between jumping out of a plane for $1 million or sleeping in a cage with a bear overnight for $10 million, which one would you choose?
I'm jumping out of a plane. I ain't messing with no bears. I see what trained bears do to people in circuses when they want to act up. So I ain't messing with no bears.
Well, I mean, you could have also asked which bear would it be, because if it's a black bear, they could be warm and cuddly.
I ain't trusting no bears.
No trust, no.
No bears.
I happen to.
Fair enough. If you had to choose to meet Michael Jordan or LeBron James, who would you choose and why?
I think I would rather, you know what? Truthfully, I'd rather meet, I love Mike, but I would love LeBron because he's been 2 decades and operating on a high level. But my problem with Mike is not the basketball stuff, it's the off the court stuff. I don't think with his platform, he's turned into too much of an image where LeBron is in the community, he's doing stuff, he's giving back, and that for me is bigger than basketball. So I think even though Michael Jordan is the man, the GOAT, LeBron will be generational and be remembered long past Jordan because of what he's doing on and off the court.
Fair enough. Last thing, if you had a choice to be 6'10", can dunk the ball, phenomenal basketball player, or a chance to be your height you're at right now, but super athletic, 360 windmill, do all type of stupid dunks you're able to do, which one would you choose?
6'10".
Love it.
Because at my height, eventually the knees start going. I used to be able to do little dunks and touch the rim now, but every time you land, it takes about a week or a year off of your body. Well, at 6'10", you can always touch the rim. You ain't got to jump anymore. You can just reach.
Yeah. I remember one time when I was coaching a couple years back, we were in Indiana. We played against Jeff Teague, and they had one player on the team that was 6'10". He was hanging on the rim while he was talking in the timeout. He was was literally standing and hanging on the rim while he was talking in the timeout. So I don't disagree with you on that one.
Can't teach tight, man.
Can't teach tight. Well, I want to move in there right now to the script. I want to talk about just kind of things in general. Lately, the GTA has become ruthless with killings and stabbings again. It's been not so much of a safe place anymore. You being a community guy, what are some ways we can help people to become less angry and not want to commit more crimes?
I think the big fact is there's a lack of community in community. So like the village concept. When I grew in New Jersey, we grew up with a village concept. When I first came to Canada, it was a village concept. Even the drug dealers, there was a hierarchy. There was a rules and regulations. So like it's become no rules, no regulations. So I think one of the big things is the devoid of the male role models leaving those communities. And those communities are being run by females that don't understand the male aspect. And some people say, what do you mean by a female can't run the house? It's not about running the house. It's teaching a man how to be a man. It's teaching them how to navigate. I do female basketballs on the guys' basketball side. And when guys said, you know what I'm saying, coach, you know how it is, I could say I understand. On the female side, you know how it is, coach, I don't understand. I don't. Things that female goes through that sometimes is unspoken, our next female could understand it just by saying that. And it's the same concept with male. The things that males go through in some of these communities, the pathway needs to be led by a male who's went through that pathway, who has some knowledge, who has some understanding and wisdom that can tell these young males how to navigate it. They're getting violent because of the lack of, the lack of supports, the lack of love, the lack of jobs, the lack of understanding in the school curriculum. You can't have 25 kids in a classroom and they all learn 25 different ways. Yeah. They're not learning. They're not, so they're being told that they're not important. So when they're going on the road, they act like they're not important. They act like, so-called caged animals. When they get out, they don't know how to act. And that's what's going on. It's the community is being devoid of male role models. The system is set up, and I've always said the system is set up where if a father can't pay child support and the mother is on mother's allowance, they're told not to let the male come to the house. If the male comes around, they lose their welfare check. And being in the community for 25, 27 years, I remember females saying, I can't have him coming around because if my worker finds out, I'll lose my check. So
I know that.
The system is not being set up for even fathers who are not with the mothers to still be fathers, because they might not be surviving themselves. They might be struggling themselves, but they have enough in them to teach the young males. And it's not welcoming anymore. Like the system has to change.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you think that there are any outreach programs that we could do as a basketball community, or even just a human being, to want to try to change the system a little bit, or try to involve fathers a little bit more, or involve people to so that this doesn't have these things don't happen anymore?
I've always said mentorship programs and programs without a budget doesn't work. It has to be sustainable. We bring kids into youth into program, we bring adults into the program and say, come and get a slice of pizza. That doesn't work. They still need to survive. Some of these young males and females are breadwinners for their families. Sometimes they got to bring in a check to make sure that the bills are and ends meet. And then you're looking at in this time now, COVID ripped the bandage off of a lot of ailments that's been plaguing our communities for years. And when you look at it and say, okay, why is the medical issues in our community so big? It's because we don't have any doctors in our communities. We have health clinics that warehouse you, see you for 5 minutes and ask you, what's your ailment? Oh, I'm sick and I think I need Tylenol 3. Okay, here's a bottle of Tylenol 3. And then these kids mix it with the drinks. So it's looking at having a program that now gives them enough money to survive. And then the end game is you graduate out that program and you work for that program and you bring in another 10. They do it in America in the gang areas in Chicago and Florida and Los Angeles and New York. They do it well. And these are programs where they're saying it costs $100,000 or $150,000 a year to house somebody in jail. Let's pay them $30,000 and put them in a program, and they don't reoffend. They become mentors. They become the leaders in the community because they don't have to sell drugs. They don't have to rob each other and do all the other stuff. So programs that have a funding in it to keep the kids off the thing. And if you think about it, it's $150 to keep them in jail, $30,000 to $40,000 to keep them in the program. You're saving $110,000 each youth. That's a reoffender. It's simple math, but for some reason, the business of jail is more important because, as I told you, reverse the numbers. $40,000 to keep them on the road, but $150,000 to keep them in jail. I'd rather keep them in jail because there's a business there.
Yep.
Wow. You're putting me on game today, Pat. You're putting me on game. Some things that I didn't know, man. Some things that I didn't even know. Wow. All right. What's one piece of advice that you'd give someone that is choosing violence over peace?
Are you going to take over what that person left when you take their life? So is it they're taking care of their family, taking care of their grandparents, they're just a good brother, a good mentor, a good whatever it is. Who's going to replace that void that you have taken away from the community, family, friends, or whatever? And I've always said that to people. I look at myself and I always said, if I leave, who would take over the things that I'm doing and do it in the care that I do it? And that's how I teach all my youth to live their life. Like, what you do in your life has to leave an imprint. Like going back to the LeBron thing, the imprint, leaving a stamp. So when somebody says your name, it's not a great basketball player. He was a great person. He was a great person. We all didn't like him. We didn't agree with everything they did. But if we're gonna do when the scales tip, it's gonna tip to the better side versus the lower side. And that's how I think. What are you gonna take over what that person? Especially when you talk about adults and they have kids. Who's gonna take care of mentor that son or daughter who doesn't see, that mother who has that hole in their heart that they buried a child before they died. And we as parents always say I want to make sure that my child outlives me. That's my job. Wow. And that's my thing. I always say I say to all my kids in the program, like, who's going to take over that? Who's going to fill that void?
I'm going to take that because honestly, that's a very strong piece of advice. And honestly, even like, I don't even have words. That was very strong, to be honest with you, because even for me, like, even when I think about everything going on in the city right now, I'm like, of all things to be doing, why would you want to kill somebody? Like, why would you think that taking somebody away from their family, or taking someone away from their significant other, or a coach, right? Now you're taking away another father figure or a mother figure or something from these kids that maybe they only have this one person in their life that is saving them from depression or whatever the case might be. And we kind of saw the other day, even with Twitch, when Twitch passed away from suicide. Who's to say that if you take this person's life, they're not going to take their own life afterwards? Because, like I said a second ago, you literally saved the person's life. So for me, it's kind of like, I don't know. I just feel really touched by that, piece of advice. Because for me, it's like, you're right. How are you going to take over that person's, life, and what are they going to do moving forward in order for them to be able to help the kids or help people or help your partner or help, your whatever it might be. Damn, Pat, you might make me cry today on the podcast. It might be the first time that I might shed a tear on this podcast, bro.
Well, I'm gonna simply say now you understand why I was so happy to have Mr. Shaw on board. Patrick, I've seen you do a lot of things in the community, so I know how you think, and I've been able to see a lot of things. So this stuff is like, man, you look at things a lot differently, and you present it in a way that a lot of people can actually spoon feed and understand it in a way, and I appreciate that about you. I'm doing it for a while, so I don't know, and you've been doing it for a while, so there's a couple guys in the community who are not just basketball heads, but real community activist heads, and you definitely wear that hat, and I don't think people see that hat a lot from you, because they probably don't know you do that much, but yeah, I know how you get down in the community and you don't play around. Like, you really involved and you really have a good idea what's going on.
I think for me it works better, and I think sometimes operating in the shadows helps me navigate in spaces that I wouldn't be accepted in. And I'm being honest with you, because if we relay the community and then some of the places where I cross pollinate, like the basketball world, in the early days, it used to be real nice. It's not a nice world right now. It's not a nice world right now. It's very egotistical, backstabbing, um, self preservation kind of thing. So people do things, I want to raise up the trophy, but then you have 10 kids that you haven't produced. You haven't produced any fruit. And I look at my job is to produce fruit, and it's not basketball players, it's good citizens, and it's and the void in our community is education. So I feel bad if I don't send all 15 to school. I feel bad. Like I haven't done my job. So years later, I'll still come back and still try to. Oh, you're still not in school? Okay, let's try to work something. So that's how I look at it, and being able to navigate in those spaces where sometimes people don't know I'm the one pulling the strings. It's worked best for me. It's been a curse, and it's also been a blessing, because sometimes I'm supposed to be in spaces, and if people knew, maybe I'd get another opportunity. But in the long run, I think operating the way I'm operating it's always done well for me.
And to that point as well, I think people misread you, to be honest. A lot of times, I think people misread who you are, Pat. And like, kind of like what Chris said a second ago, like, you are a staple in the community in terms of just helping people, and even like yourself, like you just mentioned as well, like, you talk about getting your kids to schools, getting them out, into different areas that they're able to succeed. Just that alone, I feel like people don't talk about that enough with you. You know what I mean? And I feel like people always misread you and misguide you and mistalk about you. And that's one thing that, that's why when I call you and I'm like, yo, Pat, like, what the fuck's going on here? And you're always able to kind of like break it down for me and try to tell me different things. That's why, I have mad respect for you. But like Chris mentioned a second ago, there are people out there that hate on you for no reason.
I love it. I love it. Just makes me do my work more. Like I've never been like, being 5'8", you know that you're not a tall guy. So in your lifetime, you always never worried about what people, if you were confident, like, and it wasn't cocky, it's confidence. I was always confident in knowing that I'm doing something for me. I don't care what you say about me. Like, I don't care, because at the end of the day, the one thing I fancied myself when I came to Toronto, and it was great, we all worked together. In the last 10 years, I noticed the basketball community, if they did something for you, they made sure that you remembered it. And they usually remembered it when you couldn't do something for them. Oh, 10 years ago, remember you were on your face. And I watched how friends dealt with friends, so-called friends, basketball friends, dealt with friends. And I said to myself, I never want to be in that space. I never want where anybody could ever come to me as a man and say, I did this for you, and you would be nowhere because of me. Yeah. It's different if you're saying it out of love. Pat, I helped you out and I love what you're doing. But when you're going to try to say it to slander me or kind of push me down. So I dedicated myself to saying, I'm going to go grind for what I need to grind. And if it's taking it out of my own pockets or using my own resources, either, financially or spiritually or, physically, we're going to go get it out of my own. And then I'd rather help you so I don't owe you nothing. And it's not the fact that I need to have something over your head. It's just the fact that I never want you to come back and say to me, Pat, you owe me this because I remember it. And just like I said, the Canadian landscape is a little bit different from the American landscape. Me and you could not like each other off the court, but when it's coming together to work together for a collective for the kids, we work together. And then when I see you on the road, I might just nod at you. And you'll never go back and say, Pat just walked past me and just nodded at me and you didn't say nothing. Yeah, no, we good, because that's how we've been. On the court, we all love because we have a collective mission. After that mission is done, we're good. And I hope it gets to that. It's not as messy now.
Yeah, it's a little messy out here. It's a little messy. We've been tiptoeing about this, so let's just go into this. So you talk about spaces that you navigate through. So, you started a basketball program for both boys and girls. Just let these people know the space that the name of the program that you ran out here, because not everyone knows that, just in case.
So it's my brothers and sisters youth organization. And the organization was started, because of my goddaughter, my daughter, Cheyenne, playing in organizations. And, I tell the funny joke all the time, she was playing for Yace and she was like the 7th person and playing with boys because she was just too aggressive for girls. And one day I got called into a meeting that, some of the parents on the team, are saying she's a girl now, she should be playing for a girls team, but she was killing. And, the coach was like, Pat, she's good, but, it's a girls team and the parents are complaining. I don't know what to do. She might not get a lot of minutes. And Cheyenne was right there. She's like, no, I'll take less minutes. I said, nah, you ain't taking no backseat to nobody. I never heard no shit, like, excuse my language, no trash like that in my life. Like, we're parents,
Steve has gone off
yeah, like parents, as a man, I'd be upset if I had to go to a coach and tell a coach that my son is getting less minutes because a girl is better than him. I would have just held my tongue and kept that to myself. Me and my wife would have argued at home, but we ain't gonna do it in public to a coach. And that's what happened. So, that's how it came about. And, the concept of the name is I'm my brothers and sisters keeper. And the tenet of it is, I don't care where you are in life. I don't care who you are, where you are, who that person is or what they've done. Y'all brothers and sisters, and you treat each other as family and you operate as family, and you go out there and you represent the brand as a family. And you don't wear your name on the back, you wear the brand on the front. And all the kids that have come through my program and parents and things, even when they've left, they said, Pat, that was a great thing, because we've given them more than basketball. We've given them an extended family, but we have also given them, the GTA wide, the New York wide, the Philadelphia wide family. They when they go to America and they say that my brothers and sisters keeper, people know them. And they know them by the people who came before them and how they operated. So I'm proud to represent that part of the brand.
I like that. I'm glad you broke that down so everyone understands the whole mentality of the brothers keeper and sisters keeper. It's very important that, a lot of people say this 1, 2, 3, the team name and 4, 5, 6 family, and but it's really embedded in sister and brothers keeper when you talk about it, and I do appreciate you mentioning that. And how important is it as a program coordinator, to coach, to stay in tune and in touch with your players?
That's the biggest part. Like I promised myself as much as possible to try to visit all my players that go away to college. Just fly and surprise them. I call a coach, I'm flying in, and surprise them and watch their game, to not just have the connection in town, but also have a connection out of town. I spend countless hours on the phone talking to players, just seeing how they're doing, calling the coaches, what's good. Every year for the last 15 years, I go, I do a appeal. I do with Toronto District School Board. They allow me to come in the classroom and sit in the classroom with kids that they think are trouble. And when I leave, they say, this is the best. This. So I spend countless hours, probably around 4 times a week, 3 hours a day in classes, just sitting there, getting these kids to do their homework, walking around with them in recess, because there has to be a commitment to wraparound support. And it can't be just when you get in the gym, because in the gym is 3 hours. They still got 21 other hours in the day that they're going through things and they're navigating the minefields in these communities. So for me, I like to make sure that, as much as possible, I connect with all of them some way, somehow, or I tell my coaches, you call such and such, you check up on such and such, you call mom, or their number ain't working, hit them up on Instagram. I seen them post something. Just send a note. Even if they don't respond, they seen it. They know you care more than basketball. And I was just doing some with a young lady today. She got herself, she followed some people to rob somebody and she disappeared off the scene. And mom's like, can you find it? And, we hit her up on Instagram. She said, coach, my bad. I don't know how to come back. And I said, the door is always open. The door is always open. So it just we ain't here just for basketball. We care about you more. So connecting with them, finding out who they are, what they like. We do 4 events every year, like Christmas, Thanksgiving, summer. We've been in the movies. We want to see you outside. Go dress up. Go be 16 and 17, 18-year-olds, 14-year-olds, because basketball takes up so much of your time. You're not allowed to be a youth. People don't understand, going to school, practicing, playing, doing homework, and then doing that all again. And then 3 weekends out of the year, I'm in a basketball tournament. When do they climb trees, hang out, go to the movies, just be kids? They don't. When do they dress up? They got all these Jordans and gear and never wear them because they're always in tracksuits and sneakers. You know what I'm saying? Like, let them be youth, because in one swoop, a broken ankle or, whatever, this could be taken away from them. We haven't taught them how to live outside of the basketball circle. So I think that's one of the things we as coordinators have to teach them how to navigate when they're not around us.
I like that one. That's actually a real good point. I like that because that's where most damages happen, right? Like when you're not around.
Exactly.
So you want to be that voice in their head.
Yeah.
That voice.
That shoulder, that little angel on the shoulder, say, "Don't do it."
Yeah, like, man, I feel coach pee on me.
But noting though that when they do make that mistake, that you could come to me and we could try to figure it out. We could try to figure it out because you're allowed to make a mistake. I always tell them it's not the mistake that I'm worried about. It's how you come back from the mistake.
Mm-hmm.
True. I like that. I want to go into another topic. Shy and Tasha. Obviously they've been a part of the program, basically because Shy, and it's forever. And they're like, they're your daughters, man. It's like I know it's family, but they're real. Like they come across your daughter. Everyone considers them your daughters. That's how long Tasha and Shy. That's what we look at. Shy recently came out and spoke about some mental health stuff. While she's in school, she did on a podcast, and also, Tash talked about, just going to do the MCL, and first off, and secondly, how close are you still to them? I know you are pretty close, but having those conversations as they go through those type of thought process of the mental health or getting over an injury, like what's the conversation like for you?
Well, we talk every day. We text every day. I check up on them. I tell them I love them and I care for them because they need to hear that. We in the Black community have a problem with telling people, male to male, female to female, male to female, that we love you, that you are loved. You're loved not because you're a basketball player, but you're loved because of who you are, the person you are. So I call them every day, or I send them little texts like, be great. I send them little sayings like, you're better than yesterday. So Tasha just texted me this morning. I flew down as soon as it happened. I told, Miami, I want the operation right away. Don't let her linger about it. She just sent me a picture this morning. And, and we have these little texts going back and forth. Tasha's a text person. She's still a little reserved. So like when you look at her, like, I don't know if you can see it, like she's on the bike.
Wow.
And she sends me the text on the bike 1 week out of, operation. Like, this is what it is. And, it was a major operation, but she's dedicated to come back because she just started simmering. And so my job is just to let her know, forge ahead. I flew down there to make sure I was there when she went in. When she came out, she seen me. I was there with her. It's tough for me because I was living out of suitcase. I was in 4 cities in 3 weekends because of basketball. I didn't even change my suitcase. It was from New Jersey, New York, North Carolina, Florida, Washington, D.C. That was my trips in 3 weekends. So I came home on Sunday and I flew out on Monday morning. And so it's just what it is. It's just what it is. We got to do what we got to do. So she's good. She's in good space, because I think our job too is now to do a lot of due diligence in the schools we send these kids. So visiting the schools, sending these coaches through the litmus test, because where she was before, because of the Syracuse situation, and there was a timeline, and people didn't understand that if she didn't sign by September the 5th, she would have to sit out for the first semester. So we was under the clock when Syracuse didn't go through. We had a week to 2 weeks to find a school for Cheyenne and Tasha. Cheyenne was overseas playing ball, so her recruiting was done in a different time zone, nighttime, and we're daytime, and vice versa. Tasha was coming off an injury, suited up, ready, visa ready, gear ready, ready to pack, leaving tomorrow. Coach is leaving. Okay, we ain't going. What do we do? And then so that started, and it was 5 days. So these kids have been battle tested, and I've been there with them every step of the way in terms of trying to navigate it and instill struggles are going to happen. So Tasha's in a good spot now, because where she went from, she was at Texas, they didn't do what they're supposed to do. But we were also underneath the gun. So the ability to not, like back in the days when somebody got to a school, they never left, because they just felt as though if they leave, especially females, you're going to have a bad name. No, she's in Miami now. She's in a great situation. Yeah. Players, coach, they have the best doctors there who deal with these type of injuries on the football field. So you already know that basketball is soft for them. Mm-hmm. So the stuff that I watched in the video and watched the doctor do, I was sitting with my mouth open. And to the fact that when she did it the first time, weeks later, she was trying to come back. She's already biking. She was already walking 4 hours after the operation. Wow. So I'm excited. It doesn't hurt that she's in South Beach and she's in the heat. She ain't in the cold. Like I went down there. I was in tracksuit. I was in a tracksuit sweating. I had to put back the shorts on. I used to live down there, so it was I was like, I don't even know why I came to Canada. But when we talk about Cheyenne's struggle during the season is not basketball. It's dealing with a new group of kids who are some portal, some last year, or what we call fifth year, because they got that extra year. So everybody has something they got their own agenda. A coach who's trying to navigate and find out who are you and who are you and who are you. I know who Cheyenne is, but I got to get Cheyenne. I don't know who Cheyenne is. She knows Cheyenne is a basketball player, but doesn't really know Cheyenne as a person, because Cheyenne was overseas, missed all the summer, came in last year, and it was ball. Mm-hmm. Then this year, Canada basketball, once again, global games. She starts school in September. All the other kids were there for a whole month and a half, 2 months, getting ready to learn, coach, going out to meals. Oh, you're quirky. Oh, when you say that, you're not really being disrespectful. That's just your attitude. Cheyenne is very, very. If she don't feel as though you have love for her, she don't really mess with you like that. Mm-hmm. So she'll be very respectful, but you ain't getting in that little inner circle. You got to prove to her that you really feel for her in that way, or you just a coach. Right. So we having conversations with coach, just letting her know you got to get to know her. You got to spend time with her as a person. You got to know how to talk to her, because she won't tolerate disrespect, regardless if you're a coach or not, because she doesn't disrespect. So some of the 4-letter words, some of the things that you could say to somebody else, she gonna look at you different, because she gonna say, I was taught not to talk to nobody like that. That there's a way to talk to them where you can still get your point across. Mm-hmm. And you being a grown person, you should be able to use the right words and know me. You can say that to somebody else, and she's made it quite clear. And the one thing I've taught her is speak your truth, because if you hold it in, it's gonna come out wrong. So coach was like, damn, man, she's very outspoken, but she's not disrespectful. I said, yeah, you're gonna get that from her, because once you have to understand, when the lights are on, she gonna play. Mm-hmm. Don't mean that she gonna play and say, I love this situation. She gonna play. So if you crack that thing, you might get an extra 10 points, an extra 5 assists. And coach is like, okay, I get it now. So her and the coach have been, since she put out that message, her and the coach have been sitting down having one-on-ones, having conversation, and the whole chemistry of the situation has been better. But when we go back to the mental health and the mental stressors, we have to understand that everybody has their triggers.
Mm-hmm.
And you might be seeing that smile every day, but the check-in is a check-in.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why you need to have that love relationship with them, to let them know you can tell me and I'm not going to judge you. Because in our Black community, one of the biggest things, if I put on my clinical hat, is when you say you have mental issues, people think you're crazy. Caribbeans, oh, you're mad, you're this, you're that, it's shunned to speak on it. So these kids are grown up seeing mothers with mental issues or mental stressors that they lash out. Dad not in the house, mom not in the house, and it's a generational thing because their mom acted like that. Even though they tell you, "Mom, I don't like it," my mom did it. My mom yelled a lot. Then they come down, they download those bad energies into their kid, and then the kid eventually downloads it to whatever. And if they don't have no kid, they download it to the people in their surroundings. So we have a powder keg of kids and young adults that are just waiting for that trigger, that person to light that fuse for them to blow up. So, if we use us as, at this table as people that we would say, it's our job. Just find out.
Sure.
Just, come on, we're just going to have a conversation. You having a bad day. Nah, coach, I'm good. I'm just shooting bad. No, there's something else going on. You need to be able to identify, and if it's not just you, it's your coaches, to identify and be able to let them know that those conversations are okay to have. And then the next step is making sure you have the resources.
Yes.
I can't handle it, but here's somebody, like I pride myself in having therapists, male and female, that used to play sports that can talk to kids. I, pride myself because of the spaces that I navigate, have doctors that can say, hey, there's something going on. It might be physical, it might be mental. Check that first.
You need those.
And I think in our communities, we need to share those resources. We need to share, those people, because those people need to have people in order to work. So at the end of the day, but we need those people to help us navigate spaces we don't have. So I think, for mental health, it's bigger, it's harder because these kids are now fighting 8-ball with the portal. You have 2,000 girls in the portal, you probably have about 5,000 males in the portal.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these kids, are in a bad situation. They probably can't leave.
Yeah.
And you, as educators, we got to let them know now that home might be good for you. Staying in Canada and being in a better situation. So I charge some of these university coaches on the male and female sides. They need to start being in the gym, because I've seen more American coaches in some of these gyms flying up than Canadian coaches, because Canadian coaches, the acceptance is, oh, you're just going to send them to us. No, you got to do the same work that we telling the American coaches to do.
Mm-hmm.
You guys have programs and stuff that these kids don't know about.
Mm-hmm.
Like University of Windsor, a lady said, if you live in Windsor and you come from Windsor, you can get about $18,000 a year of being a kid of color, and we take care of you, and you get a great education, and you live in Canada, and you live in a house, and why am I going to a middle America where I'm living in a hovel, eating McDonald's every day and hope, in a garage, when I could go to University of Windsor? But are you coming in the gyms promoting that? So we can put our kids in the right situations, So, I charge them to do their job, so our jobs are easy. So we can say it's a good place to go. Like when people ask me about Canadian schools, I'm like, I only know a few of them because the rest of them I don't have a relationship. And that's a damn shame. It's a damn shame.
No, but it's true.
You're definitely not wrong about that one. To be honest with you, even coming from a family that, my parents are divorced and stuff like that, you talk about putting energies in your house and stuff like that as well. I don't necessarily want to talk about that on air right now, but I can definitely relate to, situations of myself and situations of people kind of being put down, or just kind of how they talk to each other, and then it kind of relates to the kid afterwards and things like that. So I'm with you on that one, man. And honestly, as coaches, we got to find a way to, kind of build that house in a way, what I'm saying, where it's like, it's okay to talk about your feelings, it's okay to be vulnerable, it's okay to be to open and honest dialogue, but not be disrespectful, like you were telling Shay or Shay as well. So I love that response, because I'm very, very connected with that, and I feel like I'm very similar to that stuff as well. But obviously, like you mentioned as well, or we all mentioned, you're very active in the basketball community. But want to ask you though, what are other things that have the Patrick Shaw signature on it?
Um, Charities. So I do a lot of charitable foundations. Like we probably in the last 5, 6 years, I've fed over maybe 150 to 200,000 people. Just like feeding them. This Christmas we're going to give away about maybe 500 presents. This past Saturday we gave away 60 something turkeys. My back is still hurt because I try to be Superman. Said I'll do it, I got it, and then start lifting them turkeys. I was like, damn, that's a workout. But
Wow.
and like I'm big in real estate. I got some property in U.S., so I always educate kids on having different streams of income. So we do real estate investments. I do a lot of investments. So my accountant doesn't like that because I use my investment money, and pour it back in the community sometimes. And you're like, how you gonna build if you keep on giving it away? But it always comes back in abundance on the other end.
Exactly.
And then, I'm at Royal Crown. I'm the director of basketball operations, but also the director of operations for the school. So I do a lot of strategic planning here. You know, you know, we had a good time when I first got here, and then certain things changed, and we brought in there was a group of people that I knew through Lowe and Chris Exodus and Nico, and they brought in some of their people. We put together something that I think in the long term is going to run well. The ownership here is pro basketball. We've one of my big things when I came here, I said I wanted to diversify the community and give kids from the community an opportunity to come to a prep school and get a prep school experience even if they don't live here. So this year we can pride ourselves that we brought almost 90 kids from the local community into the school, and we've geared the tuition to fit the income. So that's one of my big things. So what I do is I go out to my sponsorships and say, listen, this kid needs 10 G's to stay. They live in Ottawa, they live in Winnipeg, and we need them to get into school. So I need half of the tuition sponsored, and the ownership will sponsor that. So I pride myself on getting kids, like I said, at this level and at any level of education. I think education is the key to unlock all their dreams and aspirations. So I think that's another thing I do. And as I said, I was the head of Canada Sports Foundation. Now I'm consulting because I was doing too much. And so now I can just do that. And then I'm also the community manager for Black Creek Health Clinic. So we run 2 health clinics on the Jane Strip. So I do that. So like when I leave from here, I go to the health clinic, and then I go and do some stuff for the charity. So my day is usually 3-pronged. 4 or 7 bills, like $3,000 a year, because it's just you can't get anywhere. It's like I feel like I'm in LA now. You can't get anywhere in Toronto without being on the road for an hour. So 4 or 7 is the mode of the road that I take. But it's a blessing because as I retired from the city early, because the politics wasn't just for me, and I did it for 27 years, but I was able to navigate it well because they gave me a blank check and said, Pat, you can do whatever the hell you want as long as you keep on keeping the shootings down, keeping giving us good press. But then when you have the old guard leaving and then you have a new guard coming in who doesn't understand the complexity and they're just policy people, I can't work underneath those people. Mm-hmm. So I said, you know what? During COVID, it opened my eyes to a lot of things. And I said, I've been here too long. Anytime I feel like I'm in the space too long, I leave. And, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. But I think it was the right time. COVID kind of gave me the opportunity. I left one job and ended up with like 4. But there were 4 jobs that I controlled totally and really only spoke to ownership. I don't speak to anybody. So I think, like, for me, it's a great space being in 4 spaces, but being able to control my destiny, but still in those same 4 spaces help the target market that I'm after, giving me that ability to help the disadvantaged kids, children, and youth, but now, still being able to help the parents, aunts, uncles, and whatever, either through food drives, clothing drives, economic. We did rent relief. Like I put the idea out. One of my sponsors said, Pat, what do you need? I gave him a number, and we paid people's rent over COVID. Wow. We paid internet. We paid phone bills. We bought over, I want to say about 300 laptops. And then I realized we giving them laptops, they ain't got no internet. So we had to buy it. So it's always, you think you're doing something, you're like, okay, you just gave somebody an empty box. There's nothing to put in there. So we had to pay internet, we had to pay phone bills. Like it was just, so it's being able to kind of fix things as you go and, help who you can help and keep on pushing the envelope. So that's me in a nutshell.
Well, shout out to you for being who you were, man. And that's why we both, Chris and myself, got mad respect for you. Quick hitters to finish off the show. Always a fun time, always a little bit of smiles at the end. Chris, take us away. What you got for us, man?
Oh man, let's see. Because I'm looking at this, I'm thinking of Patrick Shaw of now. I wonder what Patrick Shaw would talk to. What advice would Patrick Shaw of an 18-year-old give to himself?
And less. At 18-year-old, I was living in Miami. I moved from New Jersey to Miami, and I was working. My brother ran 9 McDonald's, so I was running McDonald's down there. I was the money carrier, so I was on South Beach with $100,000 in a red Prelude, hanging out on the beach when I should have dropped it off at the bank, And I made so much money that time, and I wish in those times, if I could get those times back, if I would have invested more. Use the 4-quarter rule, which is 25% for me. I can spend how I want, 25% in the bank, 25% in real estate, and 25% for when you retire. And if I would have did that, I would have been like a multi-millionaire. So that 18-year-old me could understand money versus, being at South Beach, looking at women, hanging on the beach, just having fun, just being a wild person, like if I was a little bit more tame at that time, it would be different. But, it is what it is.
For sure. If you had a choice to play 2-on-2, you're playing against Dennis Rodman and Michael Jordan. Who are you calling to play with you? Anybody that you want, any person in the entire world, basketball-wise, or anybody for that matter.
I'm picking Hakeem Olajuwon and Tim Duncan.
Ooh. Tim Duncan and Hakeem Olajuwon versus Michael Jordan and Dennis Rodman. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a good one. That's a good one. I'm gonna probably start out. What's your favorite song of this next generation? This generation, your favorite song. That song comes on, you're like, yeah, I love that one. That's a good joint.
Like the other day, I was listening to something and popped on. Cause I don't listen to Canadian radio stations. I'm sorry, whoever wants to hate on me, they can. On my cars have Sirius radio in it. So Let's Talk just streaming. I heard Johnny Gill, Here We Go Again, and it reminded me of that movie. I can't remember what movie it was. I think it was, I can't remember, but it just just brought back nostalgia, like when I was in high school, and it was just a great song. And for me, I listen to anything R&B. I'm not really big on today's rap because I can't understand half of the things they're saying. and then a lot of it's just repetitive. So it's like somebody else, you said that in their last 5 albums. I don't want to hear that no more. So I'm an R&B guy. I can listen to any R&B. I listen to soulful gospel. I don't like the fast stuff, but I like the soulful kind of real singing gospel. So that if you ever around me and you listen to what I listen to, that's what it is. You get in my car, don't touch the radio. The girls will tell you, don't touch the radio. Put your AirPods in and just figure it out.
Be quiet. Last one before we end up the show. Who do you think? Who do you want to see on Talk Your Exposure? But here's the kicker, though. You got to help us get your answer on the show.
I would love to see 3 people.
Oh, really? I like that.
I would love to see 3 people, and these 3 people would be, and it would be because I think the basketball community needs to let go of the nonsense and move forward. And I know it's tough for the people involved because there's always muck, but I'd love to see Ro Russell, Mike George,
okay,
Wayne Dawkins.
So
those 3,
the 3 of them together. Ooh, I like
only
that.
because for me, when I first came in the community, those were some of the staple mates. And because of life situations, and let's be honest, each one of them probably did something to somebody or said something or whatever that had that discourse